プラズマプロダクションプレゼンツプラズマバースポッドキャスト。
Hey everyone, welcome to another podcast from the PlasmaVerse. Here's Filippo, and with me is Nico Wieseneder from Demystify-Color. How's it going, Nico?
Hi Filippo, how are you?
I'm fine, that's good. How are you passing this first weeks of 2023? Everything good?
Yeah.
Everything great?
Yeah, everything went fine. And this
I want to ask if you started the year with some cool projects, or if you are on something right now before we officially jump on the questions.
Actually, there's a new product that I'm currently working on.
Oh, great.
I think it will release in weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's more or less kind of taking film emulation to the next level, because I will adjust that you can apply the film emulation with only the hue channel, or only the saturation channel, or only the luminance channel, and mix different film stocks together. I think that will be a really nice product, and I hope it's out soon. I will let you know ASAP.
It's going to be a DCTL, or you can tell us something more?
Yeah, sure. I will have like LUTs, so everyone can use it also on the free version. And if you want to prep it for a DP to shoot with, I think it's easier. And I also have a DCTL, which makes it way easier to mix the LUTs together. And you also have like more flexibility on how to mix stuff together. And there will always also be like some additional stuff that's only in the DCTL, like adjusting the highlight roll-off and toe compression, and also split toning. So
that's great. Hey, are you in? Have you been inside the DCTL programming for a long time, or you start developing DCTLs, during this year? I'm asking because I'm not that much into developing DCTLs, and I have been fascinating during the latest 3 years, around them. I probably you probably heard about all the DCTLs that you can find online from different famous colorists, and I've been fascinating by them. I've been diving a bit into them, but I see that there are some nerd parts that I am not so much involved right now at the moment. But how long have you been, developing DCTLs? Is this your first one, or you already done some DCTLs with Demystify?
Yeah, it's funny that you ask, because I was introduced to DCTLs, I don't know, some years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, from the free repository from Paul Tor. He has many DCTLs, and all of them are really great, and it's amazing that he's giving them away for free, and you can read the code and stuff like that. And to be honest, at the first time I was totally overwhelmed, and I didn't figure out what it actually is, and how to use them properly and stuff like that. And also some didn't work on my Mac, because I think he's made them originally for Windows. So I wasn't even able to to troubleshoot them and stuff like that. So then I kind of abandoned this idea, and I don't know, I think I revisited it in 2020 when COVID hit, and I was like totally hooked, because it was super amazing. And I went into because I had more free time, I went into to learn like some math and programming and coding, because I'm really bad with coding and math. And yeah, it kind of took off from there, because actually the learning curve is a bit steep, but once you figured out like the basic commands and stuff like that, and some basic math, then you can really do a lot, and then it goes fast, especially if you can troubleshoot some DCTLs and you can better understand and read the code. And then there are a lot of building blocks out there, you can put them together. And from there I went to do some simple things, like doing like exposure DCTL, and I'm also writing about this on Demystify for a step-by-step guide on how to start with DCTLs. And I also had a lot of a lot of help essentially from Matthias Stupman, He's from the Netherlands. He's really amazing guy who's doing a lot of coding and developing things. And he also did like a masterclass on Demystify where he's going through how to translate actual math formulas into DCTLs. And it helped me too. It's really nice. And yeah, then I had like 2 products already, which are based on DCTLs too. And with this one, and also the last one, I had some help because it was way too much for me to do it alone and it would take way too much time. And especially with the new one, everything, I just came up with the idea and how to do it. And I did a layout in Resolve, and the actual coding is done by Carl Hendrickson.
Okay.
Because he's way faster than me. He's a genius. And he also has some amazing DCTLs. You should definitely check him out. He's doing some amazing stuff. And also he has DCTLs that I haven't seen anywhere else. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that's more or less. I do it like some things I do on my own. Some things I just give to Carl because it's easier for me. And,
Sure.
And, yeah.
For the ones that doesn't know what DCTL is, it's DaVinci color transfer language, and it's actually a way to program, your own OFX, your own plugin for DaVinci Resolve. So this for the one that doesn't know what this is about. And for the ones that are also watching the video, not just listening to the podcast, I'm sharing the Demystify-Color.com website where Nico's have is a resource library, so article books, color theory, so everything really geeky on the color side, his tutorial shop, mentoring. So I will be just scrolling a bit in there while I'm talking to you. So if you're not watching the video, be sure to watch the video right now. And also, we talk about this DCTL. It's a great, thing to talk about as the first thing, because all the ones that are approaching right now to color grading right now, not color grading, because we talk about color grading, but it's also mainly about color correction, then color grading, then all the other things. So about color. So all the one that approach to color doesn't know that there is a lot about, math, a lot about being technically accurate, a lot about working properly on this part. I think I came up to this the first times I also worked, I think back in 2015-16 with proper, technical lots. And the first time that you actually see that when you are exporting even from DaVinci normal 33 to 33 lot, you see that on the top and bottom parts of the ratios there is always something that doesn't quite fit if you do something that it's quite unexpected from the software. And in that moment you have to know a bit more on the math part. That's why every time anyone asks me, I'm not a technical or a scientist. I put my hand in front of those things. I say that I'm merely a DP than a colorist. But on the tech side, I see that there is a really gigantic word about that. And I want to spend some time talking with you about this. You surely know that from the pandemic, the color grading thing kind of exploded in the world. Lots of filmmakers reach color grading, reach the color world, reach DaVinci Resolve itself, because it's fancy to see masks and things. Even if when I do masterclasses and things, I let people understand that if the image is good, you just need those 3 nodes and you're done, and maybe some masks. But if the image is good, you don't have to make a really gigantic thing around your images. And it's actually a really simplified thing, working on the images if the images are good. So what's your vision on this technical side? So how much you think that anyone that is coming to the color side, that is learning not just DaVinci but everything about being a colorist, should take a look and dive on the technical side at first, or better, just to simplify this, Where you think would be better for a filmmaker to start after maybe they start learning Resolve? So when comes this like technical side or the really geek side?
Yeah, I think you had you mentioned some important points already, that there's no substitute for good cinematography. If you have amazing cinematography in place, it's even kind of hard to do the color grading because it's easy to mess it up and make it worse, actually.
Absolutely.
So, I think that's one of the most important things that you mentioned, that no matter what you do, there's no substitute for great cinematography. And the next question is kind of hard to answer, I would say, because it always depends what your background is, where you're coming from. As you said, you're coming from the DP side of things, and I think a lot of DPs are actually coming to color grading from color grading their own jobs and then do more and more color jobs, and they actually like it and they end up being colorists. It was like kind of the same for me. I started as a small one-man band kind of company, and it was like filming, editing, and then at some point I dived into color grading, and I was totally hooked with color grading and started more and more coloring. And now I'm just a colorist and I don't film stuff anymore or edit any films. And so for me, it was really hard at the beginning, to be honest, because back in the days there weren't so much resources out there like now, and I think it's amazing that you have that many resources now about color grading, because it was really, really hard to learn. Even I think it changed a lot, as you said, in 2020 there were so many resources also from super big colorists, even from Company 3, and all of them are sharing stuff now, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So that definitely helped. And I was more on the artistic kind of thing, artistic kind of thing. When you start, it's always a bit tricky to call yourself an artist, because you're just doing stuff. And order of operations is, I would say, one of the most important things on the technical part. And I wasn't aware when to put which correction, and also with imaging pipelines, it was really hard to learn, and it was also more display referred back then. Now it's more on the scene referred trend, say. So I think it hugely depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from a photo retouching background, I think you're super well educated about the technical side of things. And it always depends. And I would say there's like, every colorist tackles it a bit different, I would say, because some are purely creative and artistic and they don't care about any technical stuff, and they're doing super beautiful things, and others are approaching it totally just with everything must be technically 100% correct, and they also do beautiful things. So I would say both can work, and you should at least be well educated or have another guy, if you're working at the post-production house, who's taking care of all the technical stuff, like which codec goes in, how to transcode, how to deliver, and how to set like an imaging pipeline with a color managed pipeline, for example. So I would say this is really important. And if you have like your technical setup and that one is correct and you know how to deliver to certain specs, then you should be free to do whatever you want artistically, because it's still an artistic job, I would say, and our taste matters a lot, because if you put like, I would say 10 colorists in a room with the same footage and the same imaging pipeline, every film will look different, because it also depends where you're coming from, what are your personal preferences, which aesthetics you're aiming for. So I would say it's like, maybe 50-50 or 60-40, but both sides are important in my opinion. You have to know to hit the delivery specs, and they should be correct, and you should have a solid imaging pipeline, but also you should be artistically free and don't limit yourself to anything just because you think it's technically not right, but it looks good, then it looks good. So at the end, your client has to be happy with what you're providing them, and I think most of the clients don't care how you get there. At least it should look good. And
even sorry.
Maybe one last word is I think it's super important to know how to read scopes and use scopes, but again, it can look well and perfect on the scopes. If you don't feel it's right on the screen, then just change it to maybe technically wrong thing on the scopes, but if it looks great on the screen, then that's the way to go.
Sure. Absolutely. About the thing that you said about the client, about the fact that they just have to see at the final image. I also always talk about this thing when we have maybe directors that are not super inside the color grading thing, and they come maybe to our studio, and I let them sit there, and we have their monitor, and in the monitor there's just the image, and they maybe sometimes are or used to be filmmakers and want to sit nearby you. I normally say no, because I'm like, you don't have to care about what I'm gonna do on the pipeline, on the scopes. You don't have to watch them. You have to watch the image and talk to me about the image, because what you're seeing there is just the same uncompressed image I'm seeing there. So we just have to talk about the image, and that's one side that I think that it's really important to pass to everyone that is coloring images. The final output obviously is the key. On the same side, I see that tons of colorists are really more scientists than colorists, because on the web are really fascinating things. I don't want to talk too much, but it's an interesting topic that I want to share also with you, and maybe have a conversation about it. It's really great that lots of pros that you also mentioned are sharing not just DCTLs, but really great information. Just having, I have mentioned it on tons of videos and stuff, but also Walter. Just think about Walter Patton and all the movies that they did, but not just Walter. All the ones on the web that are sharing their pipeline, and you're like, I'm using the same pipeline. I'm using the same way they do, but obviously the cinematography is different. And I remember one conversation with Walter that he said to me in Italian. It's kind of, sometimes it's kind of easy for me, but because a product came up to me with such beautiful images that maybe I don't have to do that much to them. Obviously, he's a technician and he does all the professional things that he knows how to do them. Maybe some things that we probably don't know, but in the end, in my opinion, it's fascinating seeing the fact that there are no secrets on the web. That's a really interesting thing. On the other side, thing that it's bothering me a bit is that there is a subtle, a subtle limit that, pass from one guy like you that is super, free in mind, that is saying the image should look good if you want to work artistry well, and the input and the output is correct, it's fine. I think that in the same way, but other technician will be more technical even on this thing, because there is a technical side that is really strong on some scientists, on some technicals that are like pixel perfect the images in like an obsessive way that I don't know. I don't feel mine, because sometimes maybe that the scopes might read a thing that is different from the feel that you have with the image. And sometimes I'm like, it works, it works. So if the scopes is reading that thing differently, but it looks perfect and the monitor is calibrated and the output is fine, it's fine. But sometimes I think that tons of professionals are super, no, it should be like that. It should be like that, and it will be like that. So I don't know. I feel that on the human side, we have kind of this breaking point. I might call it a breaking point that I feel a lot of colorists or technicians, and maybe it's because they are technicians. I don't know why, but I feel it. I just want to share this because I feel that tons of them are really, really technical. But in my opinion, just to wrap this, the baseline for everyone, and tell me if I'm correct, but the baseline for everyone that wants at least to have a small or normal color career, the thing that you want to know is that you know what you are inputting in and you perfectly know what you're outputting for. That's, in my opinion, the baseline, because lots of people do stuff, but they don't know the delivery, color space, the formats, the codecs and stuff. We're going to screen it at cinema or Netflix, but who knows what's happening on the pipeline. My opinion, that's the baseline. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, again, you have like the most important point here, I would say, that you already said, is it's super important that you have a calibrated screen and a proper pipeline, so you get a clean feed out of Resolve or from your PC, Mac, whatever. So you need to have a TechLink card or an Ultra Studio card device and a calibrated monitor that hit the specs that you need to deliver. That's super important. And then, as you said, I would say if you have your screen in place and the image looks good and you know it's perfectly calibrated for the specs you need to deliver, then it's fine. And if it reads different on the scopes, but you feel it's right, then it's okay, I would say. I totally agree. And the other thing, I think it's kind of hard to teach like artistic feelings and expressions, or I don't really know how to call them, because it's super easy to teach technical things, because most of the time there is just right or wrong, or more kind of right or wrong, I would say. Because if you're, for example, need to deliver to a broadcast station here in Austria, you need to hit Rec 709 specs. So if you don't hit them, you're wrong. If you hit them, you're right. It's easy to teach, you know. Teach, like, my grading process is kind of hard, because some stuff happens on intuition, some stuff happens because the client wants it, and then you somehow get there along the process, you know. Sometimes I don't even know or remember what I actually did and in which order, because I was like, I'm doing a proposal, then maybe there's feedback from the DP or the director and from the agency, and then you kind of move your image around and end somewhere where everybody is happy, you know. And I think that's super hard to teach, because it's a lot of it is intuition. You can't teach, like, if the client says he doesn't like the sky, maybe the sky is too blue, maybe the sky is too saturated or too desaturated or whatever. So there's not like one solution that always fits, and there is also no right or wrong, because maybe the sky looks good to me, but the client wants it more cyan or more blue, and
absolutely,
there's no really easy way to teach this, I would say. And maybe that's also the reason, or it would be my guess, that's the reason why there's more technical stuff out there on the tutorial side of things.
Yeah,
I have to be honest with you, it's the same with my website. There's a lot of technical stuff out there, because I think it's important, and I think I'm pretty okay. I would say there are always better guys, but I think I'm pretty okay on the technical side of things. But
in my opinion, you are more than okay. You know,
it always depends where you compare from, because you said, like,
no, you don't have.
No,
I think you don't have to compare yourself, because I stopped doing this from the moment I knew, you know, I was doing everything fine on terms of, teaching proper things that are actually realistic, even because we are, and I'm not afraid to say that, because we are in a moment where there are lots of masterclasses and tutorials around that are like saying bullshit, and are not even mentioning, you know, the fact of a base skilled level technical side, like color spacing in and out, like pipeline, like color manage, screen refer, display refer, scene refer, anything about that. And on the other side, there are masters like I don't know, like Kevin Sean or others that are like incredible on their mastery level. I saw his masks about HDR. It was brilliant. I saw lots of masks around brilliant from a really famous colorist. But on the other side, I think that there is not like a point where you have to ask yourself, am I good enough? You're good for your skill level and your mentoring. And also about this, guys, I'm going to share a bit on the Demystify page. If you want, you can just watch the screen. And also on your website, you have different tutorials. And in my opinion, your tutorials are, from the base to the advanced level for all the levels. And by the way, guys, you want to go on the mentoring page, and you also have the tutorial page. So you got different also sites about that. And in my opinion, you don't have to like ask yourself this, because it's totally good from the point that you are just sharing your vision. Because as you said, as you said, there are things that you can't actually coach, like the taste. I was talking with Nicholas from Media Division about this. It's more on the DP side. Oh my God! Okay, I'm there. Okay, more on the DP side. And we were talking about like Caravaggio, and normally about the artistry around everything that went up on the world, like from the prehistoric moments, and you can't teach that, because there are so many forms of art that there is not a right one. All of them are different. On the other side, we are basing our work on like digital right now, and not just digital, by the way. So we're limiting ourselves to numbers. So at the end of the day, what we do might be good for the one that are working in, and for the ones that will be watching it, or better, the one that will be watching it should watch something as it is meant to be. Like take the latest Batman movie. It has obviously meant to be watched in HDR. If you don't have an HDR device, it will seem really dark. A lot of people tell me, that's the latest Batman, it's dark, I can't see anything, because you're not seeing it in HDR. Because in HDR there is everything. You can also see the black mask at the first moment that Batman comes from the darkness, the first moment we see at Robert Pattinson. Because the first time that I saw it at cinema, I remember that I was like, maybe they put a mask in there or something. And when I saw the HDR, I saw that mask, because they kind of dropped the blacks a bit too much down. It wasn't supernatural. They had to do it just to blend the character a bit more. And in my opinion, in the end, if you're doing something that is meant to be like this, you're done. And the technical side, it's okay. I think that we can't talk about this. One of the first things I talk about, colors, it's about memory colors. So about, that you should know that the skin should look in a certain way. The skins, because we got different type of skin. The grass should look in a certain way, and the sky should look in a certain way. The other things are up to the story, and also those three things are up to the story. If maybe, I don't know, there is a moment like, I don't remember the name of the movie, but maybe your character has took LSD or something weird that is watching pink or blue skin tones. It's okay. It's part of the story. So why not? Why not? And in my opinion, you don't have to. You shouldn't ask yourself if it's are good enough from the others. Everyone should share his knowledge if it's correct, obviously, because that's a big point. Because you surely know that we got tons of misunderstandings around, and on some side, these misunderstandings maybe made wake up some giant colorists. I talk a lot about this because some viral videos and viral things made wake up some giant colorists that said, okay, guys, now I have to take my part and like share the correct things to the world. And
Yeah.
and thanks to them, maybe we also add something more to our skill set. But on the other end, if you're doing something correctly, the artistry part, it's a thing. I think that people also follow you and maybe follow me and follow other colors and the creatives because we work on a certain way. I love your kind of style because I always see those cyans, those oranges on point, and I suggest you guys also to watch Nico's Instagram page. Really, those stills that he delivered from his project are really really amazing. I love them, and
Thank
for
you.
sure. And yeah, I think that in the end, someone follows a colorist or a creative for that artistry, and
Yeah, definitely. And also, yeah, as you said, everybody's taste is different, and I mentioned it too. And it's okay, I think, that you like one colorist or prefer one colorist over the other, and vice versa, because it's also the same with our clients, I guess, because they come to you because they share maybe the same vision or they have the same understanding of where to push certain colors. And
yeah,
yeah, I think that boils all down to this. And you're totally right. There are like some creative rules, I would say, that you can learn on where to push certain colors, or that like most of the time red will look better if it's not garish but more has more density and is visually a bit darker and not like bright and saturated. And on the opposite, like yellow will look better most of the time if it's more on the bright and saturated kind of part, because otherwise it will look really dirty and
sure,
not so pleasing. And also I think that's also a thing that not related to grading only, but it's always you have to learn the rules and then you can break them, I guess.
yeah. You have to, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure. And I think, yeah, you shouldn't break the rule that you're delivering like an HDR file for a Rec 709 broadcast spot, but you definitely should break the rules when it's down to artistic things.
Yeah. About the HDR, we talk about this on the latest episode. I'm also going to talk about this. I won't talk about HDR in general, but have you ever had a upload for YouTube in HDR? Because it's not quite the same thing as uploading, or sorry, delivering like for Netflix. Because we had this kind of problem with metadata with YouTube's, and I had made like 3 different paths with 3 different methods by being referred in a resolve with this management, by doing it in the pipeline. And YouTube is kind of strange during those days. It takes 48 hours to like elaborate the video, and sometimes randomly the same export doesn't show HDR. You ever happened something like this, or?
To be honest, no, because I'm
Lucky you.
doing a lot of commercial work on my grading job, and especially in my country, I don't know if it's
This doesn't require
in the US or so, but it's all just Rec 709, and maybe one job out of 50 is like P3 because it's a cinema spot and they don't even care if it's limited to Rec 709, because most of the time it's also like broadcast cinema and online, so they're fine if you do it just in Rec 709. So I like do all my jobs in Rec 709 still, and also the few features I've graded since then, they're all also just P3 at max. So I can't really comment on any of the HDR stuff. I sometimes put my LG OLED, which is kind of capping out at 700 nits, I think, to HDR mode to just test my tools if anything is breaking or so. Even though it's not the best thing to judge it there, but I then ask some guys who I know that they have a HDR display, like class 1 reference display, to ask them if they can test it. But I don't have any HDR display on my own, and also because of that I don't do any HDR uploads to YouTube.
It's not really so much asked for broadcast and for web, obviously.
I think it's definitely coming, and I guess it will stay, and it's the way to go. HDR, I think it's not a thing with like 3D that was like in trend for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and it's gone again. I think it will definitely stay, but the price of entry is still
really
high, to be honest. Because
it is.
I tried, or I thought of buying the new Flanders Scientific monitor. I think they announced it 2 or 3 years ago, and it's still not getting produced in a lot of quantities. So you see there's a lot of issues, and the wait list is huge for this display. They still can't produce it in a high in high quantities, and it's still I think it will be great once it's out, but it's still like, I think in my country it's like 20,000 euros net, so without VAT. So the price of entry is really high, and of course you can get close with like the new MacBook screens. I heard that they be really, really good for the price point, and do like consumer devices, and
but it won't be like having a proper grading, monitor, obviously.
No, that it will never substitute that. And I think to learn it's maybe okay, and to get used to HDR and see how it works and how to set up an image pipeline and stuff like that, I think it's okay for learning. But if you deliver to Netflix, you definitely should have a proper display in place.
I'll keep some HDR question from maybe some. We have some really. I won't spoil names, but we have also some callers from Company 3 that also gave us the okay for the podcast. I'm waiting for sure. I'm not also a lot in the HDR side, because even me, it's like 90% Rec 709 style, 2.4, 2.2. It depends on the delivery, but. Yeah, I add some situation about the HDR also, because with Plasma we are entering in the film scenario, and we are like making a whole environment for cinema. And as I start, working with HDR, it's kind of depressive. You know why? Because you're really seeing those data that you can't see normally in Rec 709. And I was like, oh my God, let me see at all the footages from all their commercials and how much could have done with this, but not as much as like cranking the highlights to the maximum level. More on seeing the details, seeing the blacks, and seeing everything in the really tiny spots that you normally don't see. So the HDR thing, it surely is, a point that it's a requirement for the next years, even because right now, I think that Joan Melara or someone, no, maybe it was, I don't know who, but someone in Instagram really great, or DP or Colorist said that right now we can't even deliver, 2K streams that are super compressed with big dots, and we talk about maybe, higher resolutions for streams, but I hope that at a certain point we will be able to make the HDR standard, because even on the movie side, there are things that we normally don't see. Also, during this month, during December, my girlfriend always wants to watch all the Harry Potter movies during the Christmas period, and I was like, okay, we have the HDR Blu-rays this time, so let me see the HDR Master, because they are different. They look totally different from the original Blu-ray, obviously, because they have been regraded, like the Lord of the Rings, like all the old movies that you take the HDR remaster, and you really can see tons of things that weren't there, and sometimes some things that you don't want to see, even because on the Lord of the Rings, I saw some qualifier masks made on faces like breaking apart. There is a scene from the Two Towers. I don't want to mention it, but it's visible even to someone that is opening Resolve for the first time. Watch the warg scene. I think it's a warg scene. There is a moment with King Theoden with everything like breaking apart, and some masks really visible. I think that the colors work in that at like 2 hours to grade the whole movie, because it's I don't know, but the HDR side.
But interest. Maybe I have to.
Yeah, you should. But the cool thing about HDR right now is that if you love some movie, you can like rewatch them and see the brand new pass. And also, it's interesting for movies like I mentioned the Lord of the Rings, even because the DP died like 7 years ago, and so you have a colorist that it's not guided by the DP, and so it's it might be maybe a bit weird, even because some scenes lost the original flavor. Maybe they had a brownish tint or an orange tint that has been missed, and everything has been just normalized, or some masks added. The DP should have said, no, don't add that mask there. I don't want the mask. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common with remastering, actually, that I don't know if you have like a new delivery standard that you have to reimagine, or it's always depends. Maybe I don't know, Lord of the Rings is not on Netflix, I guess, but
it is, but it's not in HDR. It's not in HDR, the old one.
But I would say, like with Netflix, because you always have to deliver like a non-graded archival master kind of thing. And my suspicion is that they also do this because if they say, okay, maybe in 10 years we have like, I don't know, 5,000 or even 10,000 nit displays, and maybe you need to remaster and reimagine the content then, because it will look different. It's like the same, it looks totally different in SDR than in HDR, so maybe you have to reimagine everything of the film and do it from scratch. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Who knows? We will see for sure.
It always depends on, even, as you said, maybe the DP is not around anymore, or maybe the director says it's fine, just play my 1000 nits HDR master on a 5000 nit screen or 10,000 nit screen. Maybe it works, maybe it don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
I'm just imagining. Sorry.
Reimagine some content.
Yeah.
But it always depends. Some will say it's great. Some will say it's horrible. Yeah. I think that it always boils down to what you prefer, like we already said with grading.
I would have said that we are not we are not on the first years of the HDR, but we are maybe in the first years of HDR for the masses, because since I don't know 2013, 14, 15, I don't remember where, but I think the first time I saw an HDR monitor was in Rome at the Micro Salon. I think it was like 7 years ago. I don't really remember. I won't say when, but I remember that the minimum price, I remember this Canon monitor was around 40K or something, 50K. Really, really crazy price, and it wasn't even a Flanders, even because right now the Trimaster we're using, it's really 1000 nits, really simple 1000 nit monitor. The base for HDR, that costs around 12K. It's really expensive for the fact that it's a entry-level HDR monitor, professional HDR monitor. Yeah. And right now, I think that it's the kind of moment where everyone is kind of entering into this, and so I can tell to the one that regraded the Lord of the Rings or the other one that maybe messed something up, it's fine because it's something new. And I'm really excited on what we're going to happen, even because I can think about movies like Dune, or not Dune, but maybe something really, really sunny on 10,000 nits or something like this, and maybe I don't know how many years we will be watching those movies with glasses, because we will be blown up. I just remember, grading the Iron Sea, that YouTube video that I graded in HDR, like I was passing from like a group of shots underwater with the peak maximum value that was around 600, 700 nits on like tiny spots on his face, to an external super bright that was like, oh my gosh. And it's the punch that the monitor gives you, it's real, and you can really feel those nits in your eye. That's exciting on some part. And we're going for sure to have more affordable monitors, and for sure HDR delivery more often. So I want to also ask you about your profession and about I want to talk also about a bit more in depth about the Demystify, but also you have like 1, 2, 3 really influential people that in your life that impact you on what you're doing, and that on the professional, the human side.
Yeah. Well, tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question. Maybe you have more than 3, or maybe less than 3, even just 1 if it's okay.
Yeah, I think I could probably mention 100 because, there are a lot of influences, obviously. And I think, generally speaking, one of my top influences, like my fiance, obviously, not just for grading, but in general, but also for grading, because sometimes she sees things different because she's not a colorist, and it's really helpful oftentimes. And also, like in general, with all kind of topics like politics and whatever, I think that's a really nice influence, and that's also why I'm engaged with her.
Ah, great. Congratulations also about that.
Thank you. Thanks. And purely on side of like working or in our industry, even there are a lot of influences. And I think, if like colorist wise, there are too many names to say, but I would say, like, I really love all the work that Cheat is doing in London, like Tom Tompkins and his team. I think they're really, really, really good, and always pushing things and doing stuff that they're like on the cutting edge of technology, I would say, and also artistically, of course, not just technology, but they're doing really amazing stuff. But obviously there's also all the big names. I think you can't say that the work they are doing is not influential and not nice. Obviously, everything that Company 3 does looks just amazing, like Euphoria from Tom Poole. It's just blowing my mind if you see these images and you're like, what the fuck, how
incredible.
Yeah. So obviously there are a lot, and also not just colorists, but also DPs and directors, and there's so many out there, and it's amazing that there are so many out there, and it's really nice. And also the same thing with like color scientists. It was like crazy to see, if you Google like Mitch Bogdanovich, for example. He's doing like, I think he's now really famous since Joker, because Jill talked a lot about him and said that he's doing the lot, and everybody is crazy about this. But if you actually Google his name with how many patents he has from Kodak and what he developed over the last decades, it's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely stunning how much guys like him did develop back in the days with all the chemicals and like everything. It's super crazy. And like this, and I would say that the last big influence for me are like outdoor guys, because I do a lot of sports climbing and bouldering, and I think you can also learn a lot from guys like this, even if it's completely different. But I don't know, maybe some are familiar with Alex Honnold, for example. And he did like free soloing, that means without any rope, the El Capitan, and it's totally crazy if you think he's like, I don't know, 900 meters or climbing 900 meters without any safety line.
God. Yeah.
And
that's crazy.
If you learn something from this mindset and what he's doing, obviously it's totally insane, but it's really nice to hear stories from guys like that. And also, I think, like, because it's kind of related, because it's a climbing outdoor company, is like Patagonia, who did the thing with all their earnings now, donating for environmental stuff, and stuff like that is really amazing to see, and also makes me think about also my business, because I have like green energy for like many years now, and now it's a trend. But I'm glad that it's a trend, and I do it in my office with all my servers for a really long time now, and I'm also planning on getting like solar panels and powering or producing my own energy for my office and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's one of those moments where something that goes like viral, or it's a great thing. It's helping the word, and that's great. You mentioned really great names, and it's great that you've been also inspired by your fiance, and it's glad to hear all this. Also about Cheated, I love their works. I love also the most their working spaces and the renderings that they have on their website. I invite everyone to watch their website. I love how minimal and really great are their spaces. Really great. I think they might be second or third from Company 3. Company 3 obviously have really giant headquarters, but they have their rooms that are really great, and I love them.
It's definitely a great resource also for watching their stuff also on Netflix. If you have like a calibrated LG screen, I think that the work from Dovif on End of the Fucking World and all this stuff looks really superb. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And about your workflow on the clients, I seen your couch there. I think that the one for the client's couch, that one. Yeah, that's your grading room. So
it's my grading room. Maybe I can zoom out a bit.
On the Demystify, you have do you have something?
That's a picture. Also on my side, I think on artjungle.tv, you can see the room.
Yeah, I will let all the people now see your space. It's kind of interesting things for not just Colorist, but for where can I find it? It's on.
I can send you the link real quick.
Okay. By the way, it's one of the most asked things. The fact of, let me see your color grading space, your color grading room. Tons of people are asking this. It's quite important. I think I am offline with my phone, so I can search it really quickly on the web, maybe.
It's artjungle.tv. Anyhow, the chat doesn't work.
Artjungle.tv. Okay.
I think you should find it just with my name too.
There it is.
Yeah, and there should be.
Or your works. And then we got switch.
But my tweet is in there.
Oh, here it is. Really nice. What monitor do you have here?
Sorry?
What monitor for the client you have here?
That's actually an LG one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's like the first one that came out. I think it was the B7 or B6 or something like that. So it's really old now. I think it was back in.
It's still good for the results. Still good for the result, in my opinion.
It's still amazing, and it calibrates well, but now it's a bit burned in already, so I think I have to replace it at some point. But I think, because you also asked about the workflow, I think that changed a lot, because there are not so many clients in my room anymore most of the time. I just have a remote stream or do it via Frame.io or stuff like that. They don't, or a lot of people don't come to the suite anymore, at least with commercial projects on my end.
Tons of things changed from the pandemic, obviously, because
definitely. Also, because they weren't able to come in 2020, and also in Austria sometimes in 2021, and now it's like kind of normal that they don't come anymore. It's you can be a bit more flexible with your time and juggling different projects around, which is a good thing. But sometimes the communication is not the best, I would say, and it's sometimes really hard with feedback or which direction to go. I think some things are better, some things are worse, but it's always like that in life, I guess. There's always an advantage and a disadvantage too.
Yeah, for sure, having the clients there, it's kind of more direct, on some points, even because if it's something it's not working for them, you can do it, or then it will be like changing mails forever.
Also the communication is a bit different, I think. If you're in the room and you're having eye contact and talking directly to them and also see their body language and stuff like that, it's definitely easier to see how they feel and how they, or where they want to go with shots. And it's sometimes really hard, especially if you just have like a Frame.io review link and not like a live stream. It's really tough sometimes. At least for me, that's
no. I can relate with that, absolutely. Also there is this thing like I think Kevin Shaw mentioned it about sending iPads calibrated to your clients. I wanted to do that so many times, but I figured out that it wouldn't work for some reasons. I don't know. The client wants to sit in this big screen, and then you have to ask him, but what big screen? You need to calibrate it, and maybe you have an iMac. You need to calibrate the iMac, etc., etc. So it's, in my opinion, it's a fight. I don't want to say that Italian directors are not super technical, but I'm working with tons of non-technical directors, and hopefully they're not even hearing the podcast because they don't understanding. But it happens. I'm quite open with that. I'm quite open with that because I try to argument the fact with every one of my clients that you need to watch the image on a proper monitor, and that's the thing that everyone should say it at first with their client. Obviously, if you have a client that it's like, it works. It's okay. It looks a bit more blue. It's fine. But they shouldn't hire a colorist, for that. Above that, I'm with you about this thing. It's a bit harder, but it's part of life and it's part of how it's right now, everything going. But by the way, another question: if you will do another job tomorrow that is not being a colorist, what will it be?
Well, it's again a really tough question. I'm currently really nerding out about fermentation.
Oh, that's great.
Growing my own chili plants and doing chili sauces on my own, and also now I'm experimenting with other fruits and stuff like that. So that's a really interesting thing, I would say. Or maybe also doing route setting for bouldering or stuff like that. That would be also pretty interesting. Or even just teaching kids how to climb and stuff like that. That's also a nice thing, I would say. And maybe something like that, yeah.
That's great. About the chili side, I think that tons of colorists are on the cook side, on the cooking side. I don't know if it... I don't know if it was not Toby Tompkins, but someone that it's grilling a lot, and I am always picking, putting likes on. Yeah. It's
barbecue stuff and brewing beer and these things. Yeah.
Maybe there is something related with the color side on the artistry. It's an art. It's still an art. Also, my girlfriend, it's a lot on the cook side, on seeing art on plates and things. So I can surely feel it. So
I think it's also some similarities with cooking, because I think because we had the talk before with technical versus artistic things, and I think a lot of it, or from cooking, translate into color grading. If you have a really, really good chef, because a friend of mine, everybody should check it out if you come to Vienna at some point. There's a really, really good vegan restaurant. It's called Yola.
Okay.
Yeah, and the guy there, or it's from Larissa and Jonathan, and both of them are friends from mine.
Okay.
They're also cooking at my wedding.
Great.
And
I will be mentioning you when I will come to Vienna, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. You should check it out. It's a really amazing place. That the food is outstanding. And he's also like doing stuff just on feel. He doesn't cook with a recipe, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can also translate to color grading, because if you're like a good, or I wouldn't say, but you don't have a recipe that you follow, you know, you just do it to taste. And I think that's, yeah, really some similarities. And
Great.
another thing is, for me at least, with all the fermentation stuff, I think I really like it because it's totally different to my job, because it's like really slow and really relaxed, and you have to wait for days or sometimes even months that something is happening, and that's really like relaxing, I would say. You don't have all the pressure all the time and stuff like that, and you see how things develop and grow, and it's really nice, and I like the process.
Seeing things grow, I think, is one of the greatest things that we might have on planet there. It's also one of the phrases that, just to mention another time, because it's one of my favorite movies from my childhood, The Lord of the Rings. One of the phrases that Bilbo says on the book, The Lord of the Rings, it's that the hobbits love everything that grows. So seeing things that grow, like plants and and it's kind of a fascinating thing, in my opinion. It's also a really green thing to also pass to our children's and other generation, and it's really great, because we live in a era where everything it's like super fast, super snappy, and it's great to see things growing slow. The slow growth process it's incredible, in my opinion, and
Definitely.
really great. I got two more questions for you, because before we wrap up the episode. One is what underrated tools are, in your opinion, indispensable for our job, for the color side? If there is something that it's underrated, that people is not taking too much care about.
I would say maybe the most simplest tools that you have available. Like, I think you heard it done because it's a bit of a trend, which is really good, that you should use simple tools like the offset wheel, for example, or others refer to it as printer lights. And I think at least for me, that was super underrated, because I thought, it's just so simple, I don't use it when I started out grading. But now I'm even using it way more than back in the days, because you can do a lot with them. And
in my opinion, that's the first thing that I use. I also sometimes I also white balance with the offset. I don't know you, but quite often I adjust the exposure at the same time I white balance with it. I put
definitely. So I think that's one that's probably pretty underrated, because it also takes some time that you really get great results just with this one tool. But if you force yourself to grade some shots just with this tool, then you can learn it really well, and it's amazing. And maybe another thing that's underrated is I guess the HDR wheels, or at least the global control. But because I think you can really do very nice balancing, and if it's color managed correctly, you also have like a photometrically accurate exposure slider and temperature and tint. And I think it's still a bit underrated. Even for me, it was like a really long time since I implemented it in my workflow to use it all the time, because I was so used to all the other tools that are available, and I wasn't like, okay, I need a new tool. But once I figured it out that it's really powerful and also really simple in a way, I really like the global wheel in the HDR palette too, which is, I would say, still a bit underrated.
That's great. And also, in your opinion, what are like three or two, that would be a tough question if someone would ever ask me, movies that you recommend to watch just on your personal side to become a bit more, a bit more in on the understanding of what is color, what how it's applied. I don't know. Maybe I would have said something like Matrix, that normally it's super flat movie, and then it's colored and it's the Matrix. But like 3 or 2 movies that for you are quite must to see if you want to really see the power of coloring process.
Yeah, I would say, I know probably people can't hear it anymore, but still Joker is a really amazing example, I would say. And that's also, I guess, why it's so trendy and still trendy, because I think it's even from 2019 or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
It's like 4 years old, and still everybody talks about it. And I think that's the best proof, especially, I don't know anybody in our industry who doesn't like it and who says that it's, no matter on which level, bad. I think everybody agrees on that. That's a really superb
Absolutely.
movie, and so you can't argue with that, I would say. And I also loved it. I loved the story. I loved the cinematography. I loved the grading. It's super amazing, I would say, and I really like it. So, and the fact that everybody else likes it, and I think there's like a common agreement in our industry.
Yeah.
It's a huge film. So yeah, you should definitely put this one on the list. And like, the funny thing is, I was like with A Star Is Born. I don't know if you're aware of it.
Absolutely. The last one, the one from 2018, 19.
Yeah, it's pretty old already again.
No, it's the new one, because I don't know if you know that The Star Is Born. It's also the one that you probably mentioned is the one with Lady Gaga.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because they also shoot the same story like 40, 15 years ago. It's kind of a remake.
Yeah, no.
I would have been sure. I will just want to be sure that you were meant.
Yeah, the new one.
And also, it was the first Bradley Cooper movie as a director. In my opinion, that's it's a really great cinematography. Also, I love it.
Yeah, and I really loved this movie, and it was like, it's a really personal one for me, because I was always a bit, like the red cyan look was always a bit of a no-go for me, I would say, because you see it pretty, or not well executed on the web, and always when a client asked to go this direction, I was always like, oh no, why we need to do this? And probably also because I didn't know how to do it properly. And I really liked the look of A Star Is Born, and the more I analyzed it, the more I recognized that it's pretty much like this red cyanish look. And I loved this one, and I studied a lot, and came up with a workflow that works for me, that I always also can do like red cyan looks, and I'm not afraid of it anymore, and I don't get to shiver when I'm hearing these words.
Okay.
So yeah, that's more like a personal story. And yeah, lately, I don't really know. There are a lot of great series and movies out there, so it's
thousands.
kind of hard to name some of them.
I think we don't even have time to also watch all of them, because
sure. I'm so far behind with what I want to watch and stuff like that, because like you said with Batman, I didn't even watch Batman.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's because you're so much in the grading room, then you don't want to go straight afterwards to the cinema because you're in the dark room again. So I prefer going outdoors. So yeah.
That's great.
But there's a lot of great stuff, I would say. Like I also like licorice pizza.
Yeah, licorice pizza. Yeah.
I would say this one was also really nice because it was shot on film, and I really loved the look of it.
Incredible. Yeah, it was incredible. So Nico, where our listeners can find you online, if you want to just leave us with few links and mentions, just where they can find you. Obviously on demystify.com.
Yeah, definitely. You can reach out on Instagram, either on my personal channel or on the Demystify channel. I try to stay really active on your Discord channel, so you can also reach out there. I also have like a own Discord channel, or you can just DM me on Discord. That's fine too, or just shoot me.
There is also Nico's, obviously, demystify-color.com Discord. It's also reachable from the website, is it? From your website?
It is, I guess, or at least it's always in the newsletter, so you can.
By the way, you will find it on these blog articles or on YouTube or whatever you will be listening this. You will find the link. And Nico, it's been a really great chat. Thanks a lot for being here. And again, guys, check Nico works. Check everything he's doing, his classes and his products. They are great. It's also on our Discord server. So if you have any more questions for him, if you want to see him online another time with different questions, just drop them. Nico, thanks again. And
thank you, Filippo.
We will be catching.
Really nice talk.
Thanks. We'll catch you
for all the kind words. My pleasure.
My pleasure.
プラズマプロダクションプレゼンツプラズマバースポッドキャスト